All right, on this episode of Bowks Talking Bouts, very excited to be talking to an individual set to defend his RAF Unlimited Championship, which transpires at RAF 7 on March the 28th. A very intriguing matchup as Trent Hillger takes on my guest today, Wyatt Hendrickson, and great having the RAF champ on Bowks Talking Bouts. How's everything going, man? It seems like you're having a good day so far.
Yeah, life is good as we talked about, getting that training in. Right now is a big training cycle for us. Obviously, Trent Hilger's a great wrestler. Not only do I wrestle him in RAF, but also in at the US Open I'll see him, which is in a couple more months. So in a big training cycle right now. So I'm a little bit more sore than usual, but it feels good. Putting in the work is good because when it's competition time, the work's put in, the hay's in the barn, and then it's time to have fun.
And you guys have quite a few chapters in the story so far, with this being that, I guess, fifth chapter in the overall kind of story. So a bit of a well entrenched rivalry, or at least competitive history between the two of you.
Yes, Trent and I actually wrestled for the first time when I was a freshman in college, and he beat me in the blood rounds to become an All-American. So that was the very first time we ever wrestled. And then we wrestled a couple times here and there on the world stage, but in the past couple times, especially at Final X, man, that's the best two out of three. We had some crazy good matches. In one of those matches, I think it was over 34 points total. And as heavyweights, that's just unheard of. So Trent and I obviously love getting after it, and we love putting on a show for everybody.
And it's interesting because, like, the Gable Steveson victory you had obviously was like a massive win that had a certain cachet that got outside of the specific localized wrestling bubble. But it seems like, considering your history with Hilger, like securing your ideal outcome in this one would almost, maybe I would think, would have more individual importance just because of the competitive history with him and what Trent Hilger has kind of represented. Is that kind of a fair way to, I guess, describe the mindset heading into this one?
I would agree. Trent has been climbing the ladder, and you can see that. I mean, we are number one and two right now representing the USA. And so as the two best wrestlers, obviously this I'm not just going to walk in here and expect to win. Trent's walking in here. He wants to win this too. And I got to remember that every day I train because even though like the last match I beat him, if I find myself being complacent, well, that's when I might start to see less success. So keeping that mindset of I want to work hard, I want to train hard because like we both want to be the best, but it's really whoever believes it and who trains for that, believing it in their training. And so I got to remember that every single day when I'm training to wrestle the best guys in the country and the world.
Yeah, and I guess, how do you maintain that, I guess, continued, I guess, growth pattern and evolution, etc., on a resume that, quite stacked for sure. I mean, NCAA champion, accolades, Hodge Trophy winner. I mean, you're the RAF champion heading into a defense here. Like, how do you, I guess, just keep everything kind of in check? Like, it would seem like your coach does a great job at like the mental grounding kind of aspect, but just curious to, I guess, hear how you like stay the course and continue improving when you have such a ledger.
That's a great question. And I've learned the hard way that it's really important to continuously stay humble and just have that humility as a wrestler. I learned the hard way that after I wrestled Gable, I was kind of on my high horse for a little bit too long. And I assumed I was still a great wrestler, even though I wasn't training as hard as I was before. And at one of the big tournaments, the World Championships, I had a good first match and I lost, and I really was able to look back and be like, man, ever all these times I thought that I was training hard, I was doing this, I was really being a little bit lazy. So after an experience like that, I know what it takes to compete at the highest level, but then more importantly, train to continuously stay at that highest level. So learning the hard way, I just got to remember about how much that hurt. Right after I walked off the mat at World Championships, losing that first round, I sat to myself and I was like, I need to remember how I feel right now. And whenever I'm having a hard practice or I'm feeling sorry for myself, I want to remember how I feel in that moment and be like, you know what? This might suck, but it's worth it. I need to do this to be a champion. And that's what I do whenever I have those bad days. I give my coaches permission, like, hey, remind me of how I felt after that match, because that's what motivates me to keep pushing every day is I don't want to relive that moment again because it was one of the worst feelings in your chest and your heart after having such a big high, and then you have those expectations and you don't compete to the level of your expectations that you wanted to compete at, and because you don't rise to the level of your expectations, you fall to the level of your training. So that's kind of what keeps me going every single day.
Like almost like some of those lower moments have more of an impactful importance piece, like insofar as like maintaining the routine than maybe even like the big victories and whatnot.
Yeah, the big victories are awesome and it feels great, but as far as a motivational factor, it does serve as motivation because you want to be like, hey, this feels good. But whenever you're finding that motivation through like a loss or something that wasn't a good experience, for me personally, it has more of just more of that drive aspect. It has a little bit more meaning because I mean, you just like at the casino, the way your brain works, yeah, it's fun winning, but as soon as you win, you don't care. You want to keep pulling the machine because you want to get that again. But you don't realize at the end of the day, oh, I lost all my money. And so it's like it's kind of the same way in wrestling. Like you kind of after you walk away, you're like, man, I won big, but it doesn't feel like it because I lost so much money there. So the same thing in wrestling. Like yeah, it's fun to win, but those losses I remember, and if I feel those a little bit more.
Yeah, and probably in a way, I would imagine would maybe even behoove you to a certain extent. I mean, obviously the RAF contest is squarely in your focus, but from what I'm seeing, there's a lot of, working towards like an Olympic run at the next games and kind of pushing forward in that direction. So I would think that a lot of these kind of moving parts would really behoove that path towards that goal.
Yes, the RAF is awesome because we want to have matches as often as possible. It's not good to go months without a competition, and RAF allows us to get some of those matches in where we need them most. And this is one of those perfect situations where if there wasn't RAF, I would be going like 2.5 months of no competition before the US Open. So it's definitely one of those things that I'm grateful to have it in place because I can make it a cool show. I can wrestle some great opponents, but it serves as a really good and like it's a the RAF is a full. There's no like really season so far as I've seen. It's just all wrestling, so that's nice to have because there's always a competition we can look forward to or schedule a match to wrestle when it might be a so-called off season for the Olympic or the world team timeline.
Yeah, and it also seems like more of like a super fight structure to use more of like, I guess, a jujitsu kind of parlance. Like, I guess to serve the idea that it seems like in the RAF medium, like the specific two competitors are almost like highlighted, like in a little more of an accented way, like just in the sense of it's not in like a broader tournament framework, which I mean, that's cool in its own way in a competitive sense, but maybe just serves to you spotlight and market the individual wrestlers a little bit more, just that super fight presentation piece.
Yes, and with that, that's really unique is you really get to take an inside peek of the wrestlers and what their life is like, their training. That's something that no one else does, and I gotta applaud Real American Freestyle for doing that. Because whenever you watch a match, if you just see two guys shake hands start wrestling, there's no really emotions attached to it. You're just seeing two people wrestling. But if you get to there's like a whole little mini documentary before they wrestle, and it explains their life, what they've been through, all this and that then there's a lot more emotion attached to it. Then you see both the wrestlers and you can be like, oh man, like I want to go for this guy. Like there's a lot more behind the scenes that it allows you to see which you wouldn't see in traditional, just a regular wrestling match. So I gotta applaud RAF for the amazing work they do on the back end to present that to athletes competing every single match.
And it's such a cool event because it dips into like so many different, I guess, like combat sports too, in a certain sense. Like it's interesting the headliner of this event just after the first contest and how things played out with that Armand Tsarukyan brawl and all of that, and just running it back here at RAF 7 and everything like that. Like, what are your thoughts on, I guess, just what happened in that first contest and then just this blooming rematch with Armand Tsarukyan and Giorgio Poullas?
What happened was really unique, and you could tell that Armand's not just a wrestler because that's not wrestler behavior. I would say like it's really important to control your emotions. That's why there's penalty points for doing stuff like that. But that was worse than a penalty point. But at the same time, the way Giorgio he was kind of egging him on to do that. So part of me I think it's kind of cool for entertainment purposes, but one thing I thought of is if this is people's first introduction to wrestling, it's not accurate. Like matches like that, like that's not who wrestlers are. And so I'm just obviously people that know me well know that that's not what wrestling's about. But if they think of wrestling's people that they start hitting people and they lose their emotions And of course, that was kind of a different type of match, like that we haven't seen before because of everything that transpired. But I hope people didn't see that and they assume that that's what wrestling is. But it's a unique factor that they're bringing in UFC, jiu-jitsu, influencers. It's a whole awesome spectrum of competitors, which is very unique. But with that, I think that's really good because some of us wrestlers are so good, it's almost not entertaining. Like we go out there and we just destroy a guy in 20 seconds, and the match is over. We've seen that with Zahid Valencia, David Carr, and stuff like that. But I think it'll be a good rematch. I'd like to see those two just wrestle a fair wrestling match and not try to. I mean, if they want to go to MMA or grappling, I think yeah, absolutely, just don't do it at RAF. Go do your own thing. But I'd like to see a fair wrestled match with respect on both sides of wrestlers at RAF 07.
No, fair enough. Because I was seeing you talk about this more of like in a context of if you wanted to pursue MMA, and you were like, oh, I like kind of punching people. It's a bit of a fun time, but relative to this Arman Tsarukyan contest, it's like, yeah, keep that out of the wrestling space. So yeah, I hear you in that regard.
Yes, that's absolutely right.
And just yeah, to your point about so many people coming in from different spaces, like I mean, you mentioned the jujitsu piece, and I guess he's also kind of branched out into MMA and some of the influencer boxing. But Dillon-Danis taking on Colby Covington, I mean, that seems like a very intriguing one. I mean, certainly the I guess battle on the mic beforehand, like that piece will probably entertain certain people, and then a very intriguing contest insofar as like the competitive components. Like, what do you think about that one there?
Yeah, I love watching athletes wrestle, and that's not what they're doing full time. Like for example, and this is good because it caters to everybody. Like at RAF, we have like matches like where like we have world team members, David Carr, like I mentioned, there's Evelyn's. We have those guys wrestling. We also have maybe guys that wrestled 20 years ago or 10 years ago or 5 years ago that are now coming back. And we have like people that are fighting that are coming back, and so those big names. I like watching those matches because it's not for them. It's like for me as a wrestler, I've been doing this consistently for 20 years. So my muscle memory, I'm not thinking, I'm just wrestling. But watching those guys prepare and wrestle, it's really unique to see how they're like, because they have to be thinking of what this is different now. That's like if I tried to go do jujitsu, I couldn't mindlessly do it because I don't know what I'm doing. Like, yeah, I know moves, but I gotta think about it while I'm in there. And so it's really unique to watch those guys compete and watch them like react mid match, and you can see them be like, "Yeah, like I defended that." Like it's really awesome to watch. So I'm excited for matches like that, and I truly do enjoy watching those type of wrestlers. But like I said, with a sense of respect, and they're here to wrestle and nothing else. So I think the aspect of, a little bit of the trash talk here and there, I think a little bit is healthy. But when all things aside, whenever you go out there on the mat, let the technique talk because the words aren't going to do anything for you once you're in there in the mat. Just like Mike Tyson said, everyone's got a plan, but once you get hit in the face, it's a different ball game. So same thing with wrestling.
And I feel like it strikes a good balance between having enough of the, I guess, banter appeal to get into the MMA spaces or just even in the general combat sports zeitgeist. But it also seems to like really hold on to that like honorable, I guess, tradition aspect of wrestling that I seem to, hear so much about, like sticking to a certain codified way of being. So it seems like RAF kind of, I guess, has that confluence pretty locked in, I would say.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. Um, someone who so Zahid Valencia and I, we're both in Oklahoma. We're both here at the Cowboy RTC, and I'm thinking back to like I said, traditional wrestling. Like wrestling's what we do. We've actually had some instances where we got in mini brawls. Like we see things different ways, and it's nothing crazy. But when you're wrestling, sometimes it might get a little bit emotional. But after something like that, 5 minutes passes, our emotions come down. We're like, hey man, don't worry about it. Like that's just part of it. And I'm really just thinking of the Armand Giorgio. I think something like that would have been awesome. But I guess like it's such a stretched out thing with them, and it's just a little different. I guess what I'm trying to say is traditional wrestlers. It's a different type of thing. It's a different type of resolution. It's a different kind of way of life. Now it sounds like I'm talking about Rudis. That's Rudis's quote is just a way of life. But no, I think I like traditional wrestling, but RAF still does a good job. They do a good job.
Yeah, no, for sure. And it's cool that there's like a direct, like professional wrestling pipeline. Like, obviously, you have indicated a level of intrigue in doing MMA one day, but it's also cool that there's that lane that wrestlers can pursue that is ultimately a professional medium where they can directly do the thing they're doing as opposed to like transposing their amateur wrestling skill set right into MMA or going to WWE or something like that, which are obviously fine pursuits, but just cool that there's this lane available as well.
You're exactly right. 5 years ago, or I mean, 1 year ago, there was no outlet for wrestlers to transition to, and you saw a lot of those wrestlers, Bo Nickel. A lot of them they go to MMA because there is no professional wrestling, and I think this is a big thing for the future of wrestling. In the retrospect, that you're going to see a lot more wrestlers. I think they're going to do both because I think wrestlers make really, really good MMA fighters, really good MMA fighters, and I don't think we want to lose that. But I could definitely see wrestling still being a part of those guys' journey as they transition to MMA, or if they continually wrestle and dabble in MMA along the way. Because what I don't want to see happen is see all the wrestlers continue to wrestle all the time and not do MMA, just because I think, while I do love wrestling, MMA is very impressive. Wrestling's tough, but I've been sparring a little bit here and there, and getting hit in the face sucks. Wrestling's good, but that's a whole different ballgame. Getting kicked in the face, getting kicked in the leg, a lot of respect to those fighters, and I love watching tough wrestlers represent the wrestling community in MMA. So I think it'll be a good happy medium for those who want to continue to wrestle their entire career. Boom, RAF. But also for those that really love wrestling but still want to make that transition, well, you can still go do MMA, but you can also compete in RAF at the same time. As we're seeing right now, a lot of guys are doing that, of course.
Yeah, and there's such a world of possibilities. Like you were talking before about how RAF kind of has a certain pull that almost gets wrestlers to, don the singlet again after X amount of years. And I saw kind of
Oh
towards
yeah.
the end of last year, you were like, oh, I'd like to have a match with Brock Lesnar. And that's not, I mean, impossible per se. I mean, I feel like that could be feasible in a certain regard. I mean, it's just really an interesting medium that RAF has that's a matchup that seems, quasi possible and whatnot, and that you're kind of putting that out there and trying to manifest.
Yeah. And one thing I don't like, I'm not gonna, I don't want to be up here and call out someone who's, just retired and done with stuff. And I just, I like showing my respect, but that was a question they asked. They said, "Hey, a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people are doing this. Would you mind wrestling Brock Lesnar?" I'm like, dude, that would be awesome. And he's still a great athlete, but you're so right. Real American Freestyle can do stuff like that. We can have Mako wrestled in a match the other day. Like that's possible stuff that you will not see anywhere else. So being able to even consider those type of matchups is very rare and very unique, and is something that makes RAF stand out a little bit more than traditional wrestling.
No, for sure. It's very intriguing to, follow along with and just cool to see, I guess, in the context of your journey, because I was doing some backgrounding and I saw you describing just the path in the sport, talking about how in your first year you'd only, garnered a single win and it was in the last match in that stretch. I mean, look where you're at now. I mean, just wild stuff. Imagine what, young Wyatt would think just seeing where you're at now.
Oh yeah, what a journey it's been. My dad reminds me of that all the time because multiple times in my life, I wanted to quit wrestling. I said, "Dad, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I'm hanging up the shoes. I'm going to go play basketball." And he's like, "No, you're not. You're meant to be a wrestler. You're going to continue to wrestle." And it's really just, I'm grateful for people like that in my life, and my dad, and of course, my mom, my two sisters, my brother. Like, those people pushed me every day to be a better person. And a lot of those lessons I learned when I was little, you just kind of, it's that just aspect of trust, because my dad's like, "Son, someday you're going to understand." And my mom was the same thing. She backed him up. It's like, someday you'll understand. And you don't understand until it's moments like after I'm an NCAA champion. It's like, okay. Those lessons I learned when I was young, that's why you guys were hard on me here. That's why you guys, didn't let me stay up till 12 o'clock eating popcorn, watching movies. Like, I understand all those lessons a lot more now. So it's really unique to see the growth of a terrible first season to, now wrestling on some of the biggest stages in the world. I'm very grateful. Very grateful.
Yeah, sometimes all you need is that strong support system around you and a singular bite of a carrot from your coach.
Exactly. Coach Zoe, man. The infamous carrot. He's that's like his thing now at RAF, or not RAF, at the Final X. He's always gonna bring a carrot. That's the secret sauce right there. It's a secret. So let's not tell too many people about it. But
Is there any RAF carrots? Are we using different vegetables for RAF? I noticed you kind of compartmentalized it a little bit.
we use watermelon. We get a big slice of watermelon and we just munch into it, just like they did in Nacho Libre. That's what we found works best.
You're not going for the eagle eggs to get the eagle powers or anything like that?
Oh, I got the Eagle Powers already, baby. We climbed that cliff a long time ago. We're good to
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, fair play. I guess the America interplay there, I suppose, right? But no, it's been great getting to,
Oh yeah.
yeah. But no, it's great getting to talk to you, Wyatt. I'm sure there's a ton more questions I could ask you, but I imagine you have a decently busy schedule, and I want to be, cognizant of that too. I know you have more, working out to do later on today too, and presumably other interviews. So just in the idea of being cognizant of all of that, figured I'd give you the floor if you maybe had a final parting thought you wanted to add as we're wrapping up, man.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. Yep, practice number two's coming up. Practice number two's coming up. But the one thing that I always make sure to say, because I would never have gotten here by myself, of course, my family's been there, but my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ has truly guided me these past couple years, and I got to give him all the glory because it's moments like the NCAA tournament where you see everything come full circle to where all the prayers my family's been praying for me, even that tournament, all the prayers I prayed that day, I felt so good and ready to wrestle because I mean I pray I was like God just take away my anxiety, take away all my bad thoughts, and he did. He was able to bless me with that so I could wrestle with a clear mind, and ultimately it led me to see some success. So I gotta give credit where it's due. God is good all the time, and all the time God is good. But thank you very much for having me. I'm like get me some lunch my beautiful wife made me, and off to practice again. So.
Well, I appreciate you carving out some time to talk to me, man. I've been, following your career for a little bit now. So it's cool to, finally get the time and some great insights offered up ahead of this RAF Unlimited Championship defense. And yeah, cool contest with Trent Hillger here. A lot of great history as we talked about in the chat. And yeah, thanks so much for the time ahead of RAF 7. Enjoy the training and enjoy the food. And yeah, all the best, man. You have a good rest of your
I love food. You got to know that. Thank you.
day.